мы не можем вот, допустим, мы живем, мы же назад не можем залезть в Китай и после него ходить. Мы не можем. Все, мы родились, мы должны
All right. We are back. Well then, let me just check my mic here, make sure everything's working before we jump into this. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Seems good. Testing, testing. Seems good. Seems good to me. All right. Well then, it's day 2. Technically day 1. I had to make some changes to my stream setup. I don't know, worked a little bit on the assets. AI, obviously, I don't have time for much design work right now. But welcome. This will be mainly a live coding session, some commentary, and inner monologue as I'm building stuff. Today's focus will be on my dashboard, sandbox dashboard, and mainly this terminal piece right here. And what I'll be using is AI ZK version 6, React. This is the next app. Components are, or UI library is Chassis with base UI and AI elements. That's all set up. I'm not going to go over the details of the architecture. I'll just do that later. I want to focus today on specifically just this AI terminal, making it work, and going from there. So let's begin. Just adjust my screen here. Okay, that should be good. All right. Got my docs pulled up here on the right screen, but my main screen here is my code. My code. Just a sec. Okay. So I've just been reading the docs here, and basically, I might have to create a registry, a provider registry, because um, I have multiple models, or the idea is I want to have multiple models here. Um, well, here I have a selection of models that I want to have a way to switch to. So right now I'm only focusing on Anthropic OpenAI, but um, what I really need is like a way to abstract all that, because I'll just have a provider. So like when I switch modes, which is the mode here, from chat to tools to whatever, agents, or agent, tools, Gen UI. So there'll be like different modes. So I'm not worried about the models per se. I just want to change the mode, and then the models themselves will be abstracted. So as a developer, because I mean this is mainly for developers, so like it doesn't matter what models you're picking as long as you're have them configured to change based on the mode. So I think that's where this create provider registry comes in. So I can kind of like bind that to the mode. So like the provider registry will be like on the back end. That's what we'll be calling the AI. So like when I change the mode, um, that setting is already in place. It will probably be like a stored state that references this. That will like create like a map for this provider registry. So like when the mode is set to, like for example, tools, it'll use Anthropic to render UI based on the tools as you're prompting it. And like on the back end in the code, it'll just know, hey, whenever this mode is this, use this use this provider, and the provider will already be configured with the proper models. So like I would just keep the models updated on the back end. It'll be like a little bit more abstracted, so you don't have to worry about, hey, which model do I use, blah blah blah. That'll just be you know pre-configured, preset. I think that's a easier way for this. It's like more of like a more like an end user thing. Specifically, this is more like a POC that I'm trying out for inside the sandbox. So like I'm just using the sandbox as a POC repo or app and to test ideas. And this specific POC will be using AI SDK to render UI or generate UI, mainly a render UI because it's using tools to based on input. So like I'm going to start with just some example components like using weather and charts, like maybe like comparing data and tables, stuff like that. So you can like have a chart and a table kind of like showing the same kind of data sets. Maybe even have like have that tied together into the weather. So like basically, and then that idea can be expanded to like um, other use cases other than weather. You know what I mean? It can be like just different data sets that are like on a dashboard based on what you're telling the term based on what you're inputting into this terminal here. Okay, so now that I've read these docs, I'm gonna move them out over here, and I'll have them on my side screen for reference as I'm working on this. Let me switch over to coding. I can show you my browser here if I'm talking about something specifically, because I'll be looking at the browser and the code at the same time on my screen, but you probably only see the code screen as I'm working on it. But if I'm not coding, I'll show you the browser. I'll try to remember to do that. Okay, so let's set up a provider registry, because that's probably going to be what I want to do. Um, and I got the API and the example on my side screen here, so I'll be looking to the right a lot of the time as I'm working on this. Now let me figure out where I want to put this. So here's my terminal code, and that is connected to the state and with the dashboard state controlling, the sidebar panel toggle, and then the terminal slot, which is in this layout here. So we got the terminal wrapper around it, component wrapper, which is just the layout, and then we got this page, which is the center content, and then the footer and header is in here, in this component here. So all of that is contained in like one place, ideally. Just easier to work with that way. I'm taking advantage of next app router features here. All right, so this page right here will show the chat or the messages. We'll call it messages, or we'll call it a stream of input output, kind of like a log in a way. Let's see. So I have this terminal, which is very basic, when I'm typing or when I'm submitting, it changes the status. I guess I have to, let's see, yeah. So I'd have to like fix this, model selection. I don't really want this. It's nice to have, but I like the icons. So I'm gonna copy that, put it here. Maybe not, I don't know. I do want to abstract it. I do want an icon here, so maybe like chat will be like chat icon, tools. But let's not worry about that for now, because that select component does need a lot of work. I just don't like the way it is now, but it works for my purposes, which is just testing, mode switching. But before I can even do all that, I need a provider. So I need to set that up somewhere. It wouldn't be in components because this is mainly server-side code, the registry. So it will be probably in lib. I will create a new folder called AI, because I suspect that there'll be more than one file that I'll pull from here. So we'll create a registry TS file here. By the way, this is old code right here, but I'm kind of referencing, I had like a set of stream before, stream of messages, and I connected it to AI package. Yeah, there we go. I'll look at that later though, not important. This don't need, I don't need that either. State, I'll keep that open, I might need that. Okay. Close these. Let's see. So we might need a custom provider, and we might need a registry, provider registry. Let's see. I got my my grandma walking around here. She's pretty old, so she's living here. Let's see. So I'm looking at the docs here. API key. You know what? I'm just gonna copy this full example and
Очень много всяких проблем со здоровьем, понимаешь, да? Поэтому я говорю, да, до свидания, иди. Сядешь, там будет покушаешь.
Hang on a sec. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the docs here and trying to see how to set up these, just a basic provider registry for my use case, which is chat, which I'm going to use OpenAI for, and tools, which is really going to probably be called GenUI, or I'm just going to stick with tools. So yeah, Anthropic will be using tools, which is going to basically render components like weather to start with. So I'm trying to figure out, just looking at these examples, like what this error is, which I don't know why I'm getting that. Like maybe I'm importing this from the wrong place. Seems like I'm not importing from the wrong place. It is coming from the core. So I don't know what's happening here. Let me just figure that out later. These Anthropic provider options, that's from the example. I don't know if I need that yet. Let me see how it's being used here. Oops, there we go. So it's overriding some defaults. There is a wrap language model being used. I think that might be a way to basically configure the model for specific tasks. I don't know if I need that right now. I might need that for the Anthropic model. I am going to change these language models from fast writing reasoning to basically so I don't know if I want to, well, let's keep it like that for now. Maybe I'll call it this default, and I'm gonna have like a separate I'm gonna have a separate registry for modes. I'm gonna call this mode registry. And this is not going to use any function. This will just be a map or just an object, which will let me use these models. And that will be, let's say chat will be binded to registry or provider registry, Anthropic language model, language model, and that will be like OpenAI default. Tools will be Anthropic. I think type that. I like having my types, all my types like that. Because I can break this up. What the fuck? They complain about the type. What is it to a provider? Providers separator. like that. Okay. So that was just a TypeScript issue. So what basically this is a very simple setup for provider registry using this function from AI core, AI ZK core, and then what it's doing is it's setting up like a default language model for Anthropic and OpenAI. I'll probably name these something else later. Maybe I should call this terminal mode registry or mode. Maybe mode provider. Let's call it mode registry. Mode provider registry. And what it is, it's expecting a mode type, which is right now it's either chat or tools. And it's returning a language model, which is these right here. So you can basically say, you can basically use this to call like AI functions. I'll show you that later. Basically, to make this chat part work, and then showing you a stream of data, input output. Oops, I fucked that up. Sorry. That might have broken my screens, but it's okay. Let me fix that real quick based on this. There we go. Okay. So basically just use this thing. And I don't have to worry about, specific models, all that. All this will be mapped here. And I can add different models later, like fast or, like free mode. Like I can have like a free mode that uses like an old model. So like if you're, for example, if this app was to go public or in production, and people can still try it out, and then your token costs will be lower if you're using like an older model, and then you'll obviously add some limits to it. But yeah, this will allow you to do that. So you can like have different specific models all here, so you're not like managing it. You're kind of abstracting all that. You don't have to worry about the end user knowing what model to pick. You're kind of like telling them, hey, just use the mode. If you use the mode, the model will be selected for you, and that's all I really care about. And the developers themselves, they can go in and like adjust this as they want to. It'll all be here. So that's basically the point of that. Now, we got our registry following it based on the docs. We got our registry. What do we want to know? What do we want to do next is actually make the chat work. So we'll do that. We'll do that next. Let me just keep following the docs here. I am reading through this just to get a good example of how I want to do this first. Right now I'm following the guide. I'll dive deeper into the docs as I work on it. I'm going to just move this here, and that way you can see it better. Right? I can just change here as I'm reading the doc, and then when I go here, let's see what happens. Well, that's not too good, but the browser on this screen is not good, so I'm gonna have to switch to this. Okay. So I can still look at my terminal on my screen at least. Okay. So I'm just reading these docs real quick. Choosing a provider, I already did that. So that's how I found, learn more about provider management. That's why I got here, and then went down that rabbit hole. Wiring up the UI, and that's kind of what I want to do next. So there's a use chat in the React SDK, AI SDK React library. And what this basically does is create like a chat history that you can render. The problem with what I have now is, like, you see this example, you have your form for input, and then you have your messages, but they're all one component, right? That's great, but it's better to separate these things, especially, like, not better, but recommended. So the reason I'm separating them is because I have this separate page for the chat, or the basically the main part of the interface, which will stream, the chat history, and then that's basically separated from the input terminal here, the terminal footer, because that's like in the layout, and like here, it's in here, part of this component. And as you can see, we have the sidebar footer, dashboard sidebar footer, which is just like, like a layout element or layout component. And then you have the actual terminal footer, which I was looking at here. So it's broken up, right? It's a lot more complicated than the example shows. So, but that's like a proper software architecture pattern, because you want to separate concerns, and you want to make these pieces separate, so you can test them separately and maintain them in one place, kind of like gotta keep them separated, just like that song, basically. So that's where it gets complicated, because you can't just follow these, I was talking about code, I wasn't showing it to you. I gotta learn how to do that. But let me go back and show you what I mean. Let's see, I can close this off. So basically, as I said, you have this terminal component, which is terminal footer, right? But you also have your terminal page, which is basically the main content, like in the center of the terminal. And then you have your dashboard terminal component, right, which has like all these pieces together. And this is where the page goes, right, in the center. You have the header, which is like that, which is this part, right? And then you have the footer, which is this part right here. So if you look at the example, all of that is just one component, right? Very simple. So I gotta make these pieces work separately, and the way to do that is you basically use a state management library. I mean, you can have your own context, create context with React, but I'm using Jotai for this because it's, this solves my use case, which is like atomic state. You have like different partials of state connected to different pieces of the UI, and they're all sharing. You can share state between different partials of your app. So that would be my use case here. While I'm sharing the input response from the footer to the main content in the terminal, which is that page, right? This page right here. So these are like server components. So like a lot of these UI streams are happening on the client side, but you have like these separate server side containers or layouts. So as you can tell, this is like a lot of jumping around here. Like the data will be jumping around from one part to another. So let's see. Here's my state, terminal state. So I would need a way to set some kind of reference to the input so that it just works when I'm typing. Let's look at this example again. So here it's using use chat, right? So I want to do the same. Okay, API. Maybe I do this first. What's down here? So this would be my page. I would create a new component for that. So I would connect the state on the client side inside this component here, right? So it'll just work when I use it. So I already have the terminal, I have the footer, terminal content, which is here. So this will use its own state that uses use chat in the background somehow. And let's see. Excuse me. Multi-step tool things. Okay. API route. Maybe I'll just set this up first. Yeah, let me copy this. Make that work with my provider registry. So if I go here, now I'm wondering if I want something basic for now. Let's see, where's that API route? Oh, I guess I can set up this instead, right? Let me see. What is that? Agents. Oh, I gotta read up on that. So it's this, because this is coming from stream text is coming from AI, huh? You know, making tools into UI. Yeah. So here's a simpler chatbot, right? It's pointing to this API and it's just saying to UI message string response, convert to model. So that way I can have chat also use tools, but then UI will be specifically just UI gen UI, generative UI. Do I want that? I don't know yet. But I basically just want something very simple for now. And maybe I'll have a better idea just looking at the core docs here. Let's see. Oh, this is cool. I can create tools too. That's nice. So I just need this for now. Right. So what is that? Oh, what's chat prompt? Oh, that's not what I need. This React Server components. I need these examples here. Stream text. That's my reference. So here we go. I guess this is the simplest way. So I need to go here and where's my API? I sort of had this set up already, right? What is this? I can cancel that. So how is this different? Convert to model messages. What does that do? What is that? Web search. Yeah, I don't know if I need that. Let's start with something simple. So we'll do where's my registry? So we just need this. I'm actually gonna chat model. So we can remove that. Do I need this? I don't need that. I just need like a specific model at a time. So I can just do this, right? Let me comment this out. Let's see. Prompt. You're getting a prompt from here. I don't know if I want that. We'll do like this. System model. There we go. Prompt. To UI message stream response, send sources and reasoning. I guess we do want that at some point, but not right now. So I'll just put it like this. There we go. And we need like what is convert to model messages? I keep forgetting. Here's what I'm doing here. I had this old route set up, and I'm trying to simplify things. So messages, model, and web search. Messages is there because it's kind of like a history. So I want to keep this, but for now we're just sending in a prompt. You know, I'm going to work on that later. Result. So when I was doing a web search, I would need like another model for it, or another provider rather. I'm trying to figure all this out as I'm working through it. I don't really know how to use this yet. So do I need this? I'm going to do this, right? And say, hey, do I need that later? Maybe I do. Same with this. Do I need that later? Maybe I do, but not right now, you know? Prompt. Just gonna add this up here. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure this out too. I don't know if that's, does that help or does that make things worse? Like an internal system prompt. That's something that we'll see later. So I'm gonna remove this, keep it like this, and work with that for now. So we got your chat, the chat API endpoint. Now we need a one for tools. That looks all right for now. I'm going to separate this. That's probably directly from the docs. Here we go. So now the problem still persists where let's see. Maybe I can do like there. Put this up here. As like it's getting the messages from the request object. I'm gonna get some space here. Let's see. So these tools fetch weather data. I'll probably have like a tools file here at some point, but not for now. For now, we're just testing. So I guess I can ask AI to assist here because this is going to be a lot of labor. to set up like a store. And for right now, I just want this terminal to talk to the components. Um, so I got um, let's say I got this chatbot example. Trigger-based routing. Is that something I need? Huh. Let me look at this core docs for real quick. Because I want to look at not this. Don't need that anymore. Maybe I should use the new agent UI stream instead of stream text. I don't know how that works yet. This is new in V6. Dynamic tool. What the hell is that? Oh, okay. It's like a create a tool on the fly, I guess. What was that? Where is it? Let me go back to this route. Oh yeah, it was here. This thing. This right here. So like before I had a context which, you know, saved this, which contained messages and status and all that. So that didn't work that well. And then we had a default chat transport. That's what I want to know what that is, because what I'm guessing it's doing is transporting chat from one place to another, like chat messages from one place to another. And I want to know if that's going to be helpful for me. Yeah, I don't need this. Okay. Here, I was looking for this. Jesus. Okay. Read UI message stream. Use object. Use chat. I need that. Stream helpers. A lot of stuff to read. Maybe I can just find it. Where is that? Transport. Okay. By default, use chat as sender. Scroll into yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, this is where you need like a custom endpoint. So I need that here. You know? Well, I'm gonna need that everywhere. Mm-hmm. What is this? Chat transport. Okay. There's gonna be a lot of reading here, man. So the thing is, using new APIs, you gotta like spend your time reading your shit. And yeah, I can probably just have AI handle it, but I want to know exactly what needs to happen before I give it any instructions. Otherwise, it's gonna make shit up. I'm gonna have to just like be like a prompt pawn game, which I don't want to do. I want to give it specific low-level details, and then it'll do it. So most of the time, that works out because I know what I'm talking about. But like this is a new library here, new AI SDK version 6 just came out this month, like a week ago, and I gotta find out how to use it before I can tell it what to do. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So I'm probably gonna be relying on this hook a lot. hmm What I can do is tell it to scan this page and I don't know about this, not yet. See conversation history, so that's what that is. Um, and you're telling it a lot of this stuff is abstracted for you. So like I'm wondering like, hey, how does it know? How does it get messages? But I guess it just knows. When you're calling this endpoint, it just knows through this. So all you gotta really tell it is this part, and then everything else is already like set up. Um, at least that's what I think is happening. Okay. I don't need that right now. Mhm. Okay. So I'm gonna give an agent a task and see if this understands what I'm talking about. So I'll give it this. I will give it this. I'll give it this. No, not right now. This, and I will give it this. But the main work is going to be here. I'll say set up That's AI SDK. Connected by the terminal state. You may need to create Jotai so that messages can be can the in the terminal see what it does. Oh man, I like AI because it's, you know, I have this idea in my head of how I want it to work, but putting it together is annoying. So let's see what the agent does, and then I'll just like review it and make it better. I'm gonna. What's your MVP? Oh hey Andre. Yeah, I should set up some alerts. Um, yeah, this is just a playground of sorts for this monorepo, and I'm just testing out new AI SDK features, AI SDK version 6 from Vercel, and basically creating like a AI terminal here for, well, starting with chat tools, but basically it's going to be used to render dashboard UIs here in this separate space. So I'm connecting it all together with a state management library. Um, Unfortunately, the examples in the AI SDK docs, they're like basically they're all full components, right? Or you're just strictly scoped to the chat. Um, my structure is a little bit more complicated. It has like slots for different pieces. Like the terminal has 3 slots. This dashboard is like completely different page. So I need all of these pieces to share state and I have like different layers of state here that I have defined. So I am kind of like piecing it all together, if that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions. Okay, let's see what this did. Terminal messages. That's cool. Okay. So it's storing the UI messages. I guess that'll work for now. And is there a hook for that? No, this is just atomic state. That's fine. I think we can keep that. What's next? Hooks. Okay, use terminal. Got it, got it. Okay, so this is where I need that transporter. Let's see what this is. I don't know. I don't like why. I don't like it doing this. I want to keep that. Maybe I can just do this, right? I guess I don't. Let's see. Not that, but this. Let me look at. This is the reminder here. Default chat transport. That's what I need. Okay. And that was for use chat transport. Okay, so this is how it goes. Where's that? This should be like this. And this is just going to be like that, right? So I can click that off. Need to import that. Sync chat messages. I don't like that. I don't like this. Send message. Chat. What the fuck? Hold up. It's like a recursive. No, it's a function right here. It's a hook right here. Chat, send message. Does it even have a send message? Let me look at this again. Send message. Prepare send message request. Okay. Prepare messages. It doesn't have a send message. returns, okay. It has a message, create UI message, or the hell. Options. These are the options. Don't really need to bother with those. So I just need to do this, like that. There we go. Huh. It is that, right? Create UI message. What the fuck? It has to be coming from here. Import. Yeah, like that. There we go. Why doesn't this work though? One argument, okay. ID and role extends. What's the argument here? So it needs a. Hmm. Um. That'd work. Let's see what this. So. Well, I want to keep this. Well, we'll come back to that. What is this? Okay, that works. So you're not passing the message, you're just calling send message. Got it. Okay. Because we don't need to use chat already has context to the message. I'm assuming, but we'll see. We'll see when we try it. And here we're just using the hook and rendering the component. What's the component look like? It just gets terminal messages, state atoms, and it's just rendering the messages like that. It has parts, so technically you can reuse these to render like different tools here, which we'll get to. Another issue is okay. And I'm going to update this to use like AI elements at some point, but I just want to see if it works first. But another problem with this, well, not really a problem, just a challenge, is the two separate API endpoints, right? We have tools and we have chat. I'm wondering now if I should just combine these and say, hey, chat can also do tools, and then have a separate endpoint for shit, I keep forgetting to switch to coding. Have a separate endpoint for like UI, like UI gen or gen UI. Um, mm, or dashboard will probably make more sense. Not really. Let's see. Yeah, UI, maybe rename tools to UI and then have tools combined with chat because you want your chat to access tools and, for example, like doing a web search or doing like a lookup for like docs or something, or like showing you code, um, like a code block. Um, so that might make more sense, and that will simplify things a little bit. Um, but I do want to separate. Um, I want to separate Gen UI from chat, from regular chat, from like default chat mode. Mhm. And then we'll have like an agent mode as well, an agent AI. Streams, I don't know if I need that anymore. I was thinking of having like an endpoint to look at all the AI streams, but I already have like a session state. I'm just going to use that, and that won't necessarily come from the AI endpoint. It'll probably come from like a database or something, and it'll use like an AI um, method or something from the AI SDK to create some kind of context for memory. But I gotta read up on a proper way to do that, so I'll just ignore it for now. So for now, it's gonna just have, you know, agent, which I'll get to because I gotta read up the docs on that. Chat, which will also integrate tools, and then UI will be like the the end goal of this POC, which is rendering a dashboard layout using the AI interface, AI terminal. Um, okay, so let's try this out. Let's see how it looks. That's coming from. That's coming from AI. Okay. If text in message, or files in message, can I use in operator? Uh, so it's this. This is the problem right here. Mhm. So it's storing it as a string, but it should be storing it as a UI message. No, actually, no. It is going to be a string. Terminal send message. I want to call it terminal input. going to be a string, so that's fine. And let's keep these changes. Where's the error? Why is that? Hold up. Oh, okay. So it's okay. Should it be text? Where's files? Uh-huh. That's just for attaching files. I don't need that right now. Okay. So it should just be this message, right? Doesn't like that though. This expression not callable. No call signature. Huh. Let's see what this says. Let me go back to the code. My mask is not keeping up. Background mask. Background remover. Message text. Send message. I was expecting a string. Okay. I guess that's fine. We'll handle the file stuff later. Let's see what it does here. Ooh, what's the issue here? Okay. And what is it doing here? It's getting a message. UI data types, messages. Where's my hook? So the UI message can either be an object or a string. In this case, we're sending a string. The reason we want an object, I guess, is with like additional context or something. I'm gonna look into that later, but I'm still seeing an error here. Let me do a check. Let's see what this says. There's an error with input prompt input message that the prompt input component expects. Related to the file attachment option. We can just yeah, let's see what it does with that. What happened to my webcam filter? It's not keeping up. I think I'm using up too much CPU. I don't know. Motion tracking, whatever. Streaming is too difficult for me to figure all this shit out. It took me like 2 hours just to set up all these scenes and stuff. And I need some overlays because these overlays are very quick and dirty. You know, I see some overlays. Look at this overlay there. And this this overlay right there, which I don't really need right now, but in case I don't have like this second window, that makes sense. Then this one, wow, look at that, fancy. I guess I have to be like this. I don't know. I don't know when it froze, but and we got this waiting room. Okay, let's see what's going on here. The runtime error, can I use in operator? Yep, because for submitting without file attachments, the message parameter might not be a proper object, causing text and message roll back to. Okay. Wow. Let's see. No, that didn't do anything. On submit. Model prompt input. What's the error? Result on submit text. To search for text in test. It's not getting it as a string, I'm guessing. Here's the error. Fuck. Why is it like that? Whatever. And prompt input is here. Prompt input. please update message to param. So again, message is a string here, but the message should be it is still a string. Maybe the hook is not. Chat send message. A message is not a string. Set send message. Problem is this. The issue is mainly here. The input message is a string while the chat send message method expects the message type for UI. Types message param as. So like, what exactly is it sending? How does it? I mean, the message has to be a prompt then. Oh, okay. Huh. Maybe it's just hallucinating this. I don't know. We'll have to check. We will have to check right now. Let's clear that. Okay. No response though. Okay. I'm here. How can I assist you? So that worked. Hello. What is the deal? Who are you? Okay. That worked. I basically just had to send the message inside the text property, and then I can also attach like files to it. So this prompt input component is basically following the expected model for sending messages. I gotta just basically align with that because I assumed it's just saying a string, and I just like converting it to like a specific model, but I have to like map it out myself, which makes more sense because you kind of have like more control over it. And I'm validating it. Okay. So that's good. Basically, we connected two separate components inside a unified state and created like a hook to manage for the terminal chat. So, and that's using just use chat in here, and then it's basically like setting some state properties that I can access. I don't know if I even need all this. I mean, this is probably for like history. This is gonna be good for history. So like I would use this for um, like I would use this messages for not only rendering this, but also rendering like UI elements here, and the dashboard state eventually will get like an abstracted version of these messages. Like it'll dig into the parts and like I'll create like a, I guess some kind of function to map um, the response from the tools to like a component, and I'll like use it to render a component um, in the layout in the dashboard over here. So this will just be like a terminal. It'll log like what tools you're asking it to use, et cetera, et cetera. So like when you're changing the mode to like UI, for example, this is gonna be UI. I'm gonna combine chat and tools. But let's say you change the mode to UI, and then you start typing in the terminal. It's not gonna give you like text responses. It's just gonna expect commands for rendering UI. Maybe it'll have chat responses, but we'll see. I was kind of expecting it to like just be more abstract, not really a chat bot, depending on the mode. But this would be like the default mode, the chat mode. Glad to see that it works. Obviously, you need to add some styling to these messages. I'm going to use these components for that. There's like a message component here somewhere. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. Maybe I can have it do that right now. Let's see. Keep that. Next is this. I'll close that. I'll have to read through this later. Message files, toast. I gotta add that later. But right now it's not important. What I also need is this is going to be growing depending on the mode, right? Right now I'm not even checking the mode. All I'm really using the mode is for that drop down, but eventually I'm going to have like different utils or actions. Use setup and use submit handlers for different terminal modes. And then this will be a lot more cleaner. Basically, it would just take this and say, hey, call this function if the mode is this, or call this function if the mode is that. And see this use terminal chat. Where is that being used? Is that only being used here? Where am I using that? Oops. Oh, okay, it was there. What the fuck? What is this? Oh, that's the actual thing. All right. So here's the thing. I want this page. I mean, it's fine that it's a client, but I wonder why. Okay. I wonder if I can just call it here. Mhm. And for stuff like this, you can have it you can have a template, right? So you can do something like this instead. This is obviously not necessary, but say for whatever reason you want your page to be server side, and that's one way to do it. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'll see a reason to do it. If this grows, it seems like I can have different terminal content here, and instead of having, like, I can have different templates for, so like this would be like terminal chat, right? And then I'll have like a terminal UI, for example, or terminal gen UI. That will like return different different message types. I can like specify. Basically, I can say, hey, don't for this type of content, or don't render any text messages. Just take the parts and check for you know, use these specific components. So like you could have different modes have different results for your chat or for your terminal. So that's the benefit of having like separate components. You can like optimize them or configure them however you want, and then these little pieces will be like a lot more manageable, a lot more testable, and just easier to read. You know, like you don't want like long components that do a lot of things. That's a good start to like understand how everything works, but it's a lot more advantageous if you take advantage of component-based design and break things up, because later on you can easily switch out stuff. Like I said, you can have two different components here, and then you'll have like some kind of controller that renders different components with different hooks and stuff. So as your terminal grows in features, you can do a lot more with it than if you had just one big component, because then it's like a huge complex logic loop that you're making in one single place, and that's just hard to debug, hard to test, hard to develop with. So that's the idea, at least, of breaking all this up. So yeah, separate footer for separate input terminal, or interface rather, for the terminal. Then you have this window here, which is a page, and then yeah, right now it's just this, but I'm thinking I'll have like a switch case here or something, and then I can initialize different hooks based on what it's rendering, and then the switch case can work alongside the mode, right? The terminal mode, which gets toggled here right now. So like as I switch through this, it'll like switch the component for me, and then the component itself will have a hook, and then the hook itself will understand which model to load and which API endpoint to call. You know what I mean? It's like way cleaner, and just better architecture. So like you can scale this properly. This terminal feature can scale properly based on your needs. Right now, this is just a test bed, but eventually, what I plan to do is, this terminal will have access to your code. So like all these workspaces in my monorepo right here, like all these apps, not all of them, but some, like these UI packages, some packages here, like email, all of these will be like different workspaces that you can select. So like think of it as like selecting different teams in like a platform or something, right? It'll be kind of the same principle. you're selecting different workspaces. Sandbox right now is default, which is just, just a sandbox workspace, which is this. And then you can, inside the sandbox, you can say, I'm only targeting this specific workspace, so that this AI terminal, or this basically the agent that has context for all of this, will be like, oh, I understand. The user wants me to focus only on this workspace, so it'll know that whatever it is I'm asking it, whatever context I'm giving it, it's only localizing it to this package. So I'll have like, obviously I'll have some configuration and like prompt engineering to make this happen, but it'll understand that, like, it'll always have that context no matter what session I start or anything. Like, it'll always understand that, like, if I'm selecting this workspace, it'll only change stuff here, right? Or only reference stuff here in like the core context, and it'll have access to this, for example, this file, and it'll understand that, hey, all of these dependencies are available here, and it can like modify them and add them, and then like it can also, like, based on this config file, it can check these different like they can check docs, for example, for React email, and they can also understand that these workspace config files are inside this monorepo, so you can go in and look at them and see what they're doing. So it'll have all that context, in theory, right? Because LLMs are pretty fucking dumb, so it can always just pull some shit out of the air and think it makes sense. But this is just a way to give it like guardrails, so it doesn't hallucinate as much. So you're like babysitting it, basically. You're basically like a trip sitter for AI as it trips out and makes shit happen for you. So yeah, that's the idea behind this whole thing. But this isn't working. Obviously, this isn't going to work at all. Like I won't need users, for example. I don't know. That just came from like the Shatsian dashboard example. Sessions don't work either right now. These are all fake, but essentially you could have like different sessions for your terminal, and then like they'll be saved for next time. So when you like come back, it'll load in with all the context already, like from the history, and that will need a whole database for like storing all that, so you can like pull it in and then inject it into the model chat, into the use chat hook or whatever in the streams that are coming from AI SDK. So as you can see, this is pretty huge. Like in the background, it may look simple, but it's a lot is going on. But based off of this, I hope to learn a lot about. Mainly, the main thing I want to focus on is Gen UI and using like streaming UI into like different parts of your application. So like you're using this terminal to create an app, and then you're basically seeing it here as a preview, and then whatever it generates in here, obviously, yes, it'll be contained inside like a layout, but I also wanted to like transform that into like files, like following some kind of context, some kind of like guide. So like it'll know that, like, hey, this is a next app, so it'll need like a layout file, it'll need like a page. Maybe like it'll be complex enough where it has slots. For example, like this has like a sidebar, or like a, I don't know, like a split screen or something, whatever it is you're building. So like it'll know to create all that just following like examples that are like registered into, like, I also have like a registry here, which is a Shatsian UI registry, which I'm working on. It's not complete, but yeah, it'll basically have a context matrix that maps to all of these UI packages, and the registry will have examples of how to use each one in different use cases and scenarios. So all of that will have to be created for this Gen UI agent to work properly in this environment. But the idea is that, like, it has local context to everything in this mono repo. So it'll make it easier to program the agent to, follow your conventions, follow your architecture guidelines instead of making them up, And you can already do this like in Cursor or like other AI tools by setting up like instructions and stuff, but obviously it's not the best. And there's like a specific format that you have to follow for the rules, and those always changing. Then you have like commands. So like I want to put that all together into like into this, and basically have this connected to, sorry, basically have this terminal connected to this terminal through this architecture here, because this would be like the parent, or like the higher level class, and then this would be like the extension of that, of the, like this UI terminal will be an extension of the your like local AI model, whatever it is you have it configured as. So like that's that goal, I guess, to speed things up. But let me go to the chat screen here. So why do this? Because you like, if as a developer you don't need to see your code on the screen unless you're like front end. So like, why do you need a sandbox or a terminal? Right now, just the reason I have it is for just learning. I'm just learning the AI SDK, the new version, and I'm proving some concepts. I'm creating like partial components and layouts that are connected through atomic state, and there's a mix of client-side components and server-side components talking to each other, sharing data, and so it's mainly just to prove concepts and create some patterns that I can reuse in actual projects. And also, I think the sandbox itself is important, like as a concept for AI devs or AI development, specifically for vibe coders that don't understand code, and that work visually. There is a lot of problems with AI not getting UI right, so I'm trying to fix that issue. I'm basically trying to create a consistent system that it can follow, like a design system almost, but also like inside an isolated space, so you can test your concepts. Like for example, let's say I'm thinking of this on a bigger scale. Like let's say you have a company, right? Like you're running a software company, and you have like devs working for you, and some of them are like junior devs, or some of them are like devs that rely on AI, or just like they didn't program before AI came out, so they over rely on AI, and they don't understand the output. Sometimes they just assume that because it works, it works. So there's a lot of security issues and flaws in that kind of process that I hope that the sandbox can fix. So like, you're basically saying, hey, yeah, I want dev power. Like I want these devs that know AI really well, but they might not understand the code. They're mainly just prompting, and the AI is writing the code, and they're prompting it in a way where like they can get a lot of shit done. But you don't want to use that. You don't use those results in production right away. You want to test them, and you want to make sure that they'll work in your environment, but they're not going to break anything. So you'll basically isolate those types of devs inside the sandbox. And this will not only be a front-end sandbox for UI dev, it'll also be like a like a server cloud sandbox where you can test like different deployment configs and different server-side updates, stuff like that. But but for this specific scenario, it's mainly a front-end sandbox right now. I will probably integrate it with the Vercel sandbox that's still in beta. Once I get this deployed into Vercel, right now it's not deployed anywhere. I'm just basically trying stuff out and trying to get this POC into some kind of MVP state or a version 1 state. Because right now this is just a concept and idea. Why did I start this project? I plan to use this for a side project that I'm going to be working on. So I just needed some kind of project monorepo that I can use to develop that. So this is like mainly a starting point. I'm going to open source this most likely. So as I'm working in parallel on like other ideas, I'm going to just branch. I'm going to like clone off of this, and that way I can sync my changes from like a private repo to here. As long as I have a remote and SSH keys, I think I can do that. But yeah, that's mainly the reason why I just decided to have like a good starting point for like baking ideas or baking like having like a project source code that will allow me to work on multiple brand apps using the same code. And the source code itself would be together, but these apps most likely will have their own containers, unless like ideally you don't want everything in the server, like all your apps in one server in one place in one container, because all your apps will just go down if anything. So you do want to separate them a little bit, but having the code together is great. And that's basically the reason for this. So I can have it kind of like a boilerplate, but more than a boilerplate, it's more like an opinionated architecture, monorepo architecture with AI integrated or built in, and use the sandbox to like test ideas before I put them into production. So like it's a good way to break up your code and make it reusable for like other apps. So as you're working on it, you're working in the sandbox, and you're working with the idea in mind that this code has to be in some form reusable. So you're already thinking about that. So you're already like moving all those pieces, and like for example, like different components, like dashboard components, for example. You're already isolating them into their own packages, so you can reuse them for like an actual client project that's outside the sandbox. So it's a way to force me and other devs, if they want to use this, to start thinking about architecture and scalability in an early way. So you're testing a sandbox environment, and ideally, yeah, you can also like write all your code in the app itself, into the sandbox app, and move it over later. But because you're already isolating yourself in this sandbox, and you already know that it's not going to be deployed anywhere, and you already know that you're working on a feature that will probably be used for like a separate app, but you want to like run through it real quick because you don't know, for example, you don't know the features you're using or like the libraries you're using, and you kind of want to play around with it. So it's a little bit more flexible, but also like a strict flexibility, if that makes sense. Plus, as like the project grows and you have more developers working on it, whether it's open source or private, and you hired some developers, it's a good way to test their abilities, test their skills, especially if they're new hires, or if if they're messy coders. So you can say, hey, give me this feature in the sandbox, just build it in the sandbox, I want it to work, and then show it to me. And then or you can have like AI agents do that. You know what I mean? Like you can tell the agent only work in the sandbox, create this feature, blah blah blah, isolate it in a folder, make it work on this page, and then the AI agent or the developer or whatever they may be are working in this isolated environment, but it's also part of your source code. So once you review it, once there's a bunch of back and forth, and once you clean it up, let's say you want to clean it up and break it apart, make parts of it reusable for other parts of your app, for their apps or other libraries, you can do that. You already have the code there. You're not looking at different repositories. You're not testing them in different environments. It's all there. You already know it works. So that's the idea. You're creating basically a sandbox, as the name implies, where you can, not worry too much about security issues or, well, security you still got to worry about, but not really worry about how the code is organized, how it's going to work. You just want to make it work, and then worry about cleaning it up later. Why did this, where did this idea come from? A common problem in software development, if you're working for like big companies with large teams, is it's almost impossible to control. Yes, you can be very anal about code, and in your reviews you can like pester developers like, you do it this way, do it this way. But sometimes you don't even have that control, and most of the time, like project managers or product managers don't care about code or tech debt. So a lot of tech debt will build up, and like you'll do things a certain way, and then realize later as new features introduced that you did it wrong. So how do you like, the sandbox is a way to kind of like put I guess kind of like reduce tech debt, because you're kind of telling developers to work on proof of concepts first or small features, and then integrate them into like your live environment. So it kind of like forces your team to build in the sandbox and then move it over to like a version 1. So you're building in parallel instead of building your version 1 first and then building a version 2 with a bunch of refactors and rewrites, because that always happens. Like, so you're basically getting a step ahead of that and saying, okay, we're going to build these features or these demos in the sandbox, because most of the time the client wants to see like the exec at the top wants to see some kind of progress. So you would use this as a way to show it to them. You're saying, hey, here's the idea, blah blah blah. Here's what we got. What do you think? And they'll always change it. They'll always say like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I want this. And like their changes are like oftentimes unreasonable, because you're like you already planned for a specific thing, right? You already know, based on your conversations with your product team and the client's needs and all that. You translate all of that. Basically build what they asked for. Like you have the designs and everything, right? But then once you already have that, they go ahead and say, I don't want this, I want this, I want this. So like it's a way to get ahead of that chaos. It's like a way to contain it. So that's where this sandbox idea kind of came to be, along with AI coming out recently, like these past few years, rather like there's even more chaos thrown into it. So you basically, like, a lot of like developers will have to clean it up. Basically, they're going to be like the janitors that are like clean up the mess that this whirlwind of progress is creating, because things are moving so fast in the tech world, because everybody wants to get to market faster. Everybody wants to be first to market, but they also want to prove to their clients that they're fast and they can deliver. So like the client themselves, they don't care. Like they're not most of the time like at early stages of development, they're not going to use the app. Maybe they will, depends, but most of the time they just want to see progress. So this is what you're doing. But you also giving them like an actual app, right? You're giving them something that works and that can even be deployed if it comes to that. Like let's say you want to deploy it to your URL, your sandbox, you can and show it to them. Like hey, here's the dev environment, and then most likely they're gonna have a bunch of changes until you get to like later versions of your app. So once you do, you already have all this in your sandbox, so you can just start migrating it over, and you start actually thinking about, you know, how all these different features are going to work together. Like you'll have an actual proper flow, you'll have proper architecture. You'll use like um, tested code that you can improve as you're working on your actual, you know, version 1 of your app, aka version 2. But yeah, it's a way to develop in parallel. You can even like if you have a big enough team, like if you're talking about like enterprise software dev, you can even have like a dedicated team that, you know, is strictly working on in the sandbox to prove concepts and ideas for the client to demo. So like at that point, that kind of team doesn't care about, you know, architecture or tech debt. They just want to make it work, and um, that's where you would isolate those teams in their own sandboxes. For example, you can even have multiple sandboxes for multiple teams doing that, or you can have one sandbox with different route groups that they're specifically focused on these specific routes, or like groups in your app, um, which you can, you know, have different containers for as well. So like this can be as big as you want it to be. And then you'll have like aside from that, you'll have a dedicated group that works in parallel with those prototype teams, let's call them, right? Or concept teams. And then they'll take all of that progress and all of that chaos that, you know, constantly changing requirements, messy code, not thinking about architecture, mainly thinking about visually how it looks, but on the back end it might be really crazy. Like the code must really suck for the most part. And then you have like that dedicated team that takes all that and refactors it and translates it into proper code that is optimized, that is reusable, that is testable, that follows proper architecture guidelines, you know, and is also like you just have a lot more room to plan things out and think about things and do it the proper way. So your actual software version, you're not building software that becomes obsolete in a couple of in like a year because, you know, you coded your way into oblivion just because of these changing requirements and crazy crazy timelines where people want you to, you know, push massive features in a matter of weeks. You're actually getting ahead of that, and then you're eliminating the tech that as the progress goes. So you're like basically behind a team, but you're not like you're not part of that team. You're basically kind of like a you're you're standing on their shoulders, and but you're also like elevating the quality of the product and the code, and you're making sure that um, the actual like version, the, like I would call it like the release version 1 or version 2, maybe the beta, is actually like way snappier, way better, and it follows proper procedures that you're thinking about. Um, you have time to like build it the proper way, and you know you just have like a better product, a better software, better developer experience. Um, so like as those as you like to reach the goal of like version 1 or version 2, like past beta, I guess version 2, um, that sandbox those sandbox teams can go in and actually start, you know, working in the new uh, the production code and making it better. Um, and they can also do that in the sandbox. So like you can like prove concepts in the sandbox, and eventually I want to have like a way to render different workspaces or different apps in that app. So you can even have people that aren't developers, building features using AI, or that's like the late late goal, late stage goal of this. But yeah, initial goal is just to contain the chaos of vibe coding and not really vibe coding, but more like unreasonable um, you know, fast coding that doesn't give you the chance to think about what really makes software good, and like a better experience for the user. Because if you're not doing that, you're building an app that may work, but it's not going to be optimized. There's going to be a lot of bugs, and you're going to be cleaning up bugs that um, don't make sense. If you're a developer, you know what I mean. Like you're fixing a bug, but the reason of the bug is because um, it's built the wrong way. So you're like working around that issue. So like these bugs, if you build it a proper way, but if you were given enough time and preparation, those bugs wouldn't even exist. So that's why you want to isolate that type of work in a sandbox and then have a proper version one that has its own code, like its own app, basically, its own port. Um, so yeah, that's basically the idea behind all this. And this project itself, um, this one right here, that is the incubator, product incubator, multi-brand, multi-product incubator. Um, the registry for UI, for Gen UI, or just, you want to tell your AI agent to build you a page or build you a component for a section of the page. It'll use this registry to do that. And the sandbox, which is, again, proving concepts, testing features, building out entire apps, or prototypes rather, not entire apps, but prototypes or demos. This this would be the space to do that. And then you'd have your, app runtimes, your specific apps. So like, let's say you're building a platform, you'll have like a public site, like a public facing website, like a marketing page for the product or the platform. Then you'd have like the actual app for the platform where you have to like log in, and you'll have like a dashboard usually. And then you might even have like APIs or different apps for different user roles, however complicated you want it to get. You'll have like different apps to isolate all that, and but before all that, you'll be testing it in here, or like you'll have like a copy of it to do like something else. But um, it'll be like a different port, completely different app, getting ahead of the tech debt, basically. Is it a Would this be a good idea? I think so. Um, for a solo dev, probably not, because for solo dev, it might work actually for like for my use case right now, which is like learning AI SDK and proving some ideas and concepts. But I'd probably end up, copy and pasting or migrating a lot of this, um, the structure of the app routes and the components that are used, the state, to like another app that I would probably want to have some of these AI features. Not necessarily terminal, but on the back end at least, I'll have AI features generating stuff. It really depends on what you're building, you know, but the concept has already been proven, so you can jump into your actual idea and start baking it, you know. So you're using the sandbox to do that first. At least as a solo dev but this is mainly built in mind for like big teams or if you're working with somebody else and you want to, especially non-devs, like, or people that are messy in their code, or they're like not thinking about, which is a good thing. I think like you want to be messy, you want to be quick to get to market faster. What I'm doing is the same thing in the sandbox, but because you can basically prove the concept and show it to a client. And then based on what they say, you can build something off of that plus their whatever the client said, basically, whatever the client requests. So it's yes, it's double. It might seem like there's a lot of work because you're doing work in a sandbox and you're doing work in another app, but it's all there. It's all in the monorepo, so you're not giving yourself too much work. You're actually creating like a test bed or sandbox. It's getting late here, so I'm kind of like zoning out. But I should probably call it a day here, at least for the stream. I might work a little bit more on setting up or cleaning up rather my terminal, so tools and chat is combined, and then I'll have like a separate UI mode, and I'll do some styling on this drop down. I'm not sure yet, but the good thing is that this works. Oh, I'll probably use the AI element components to do that. This fucking thing is smart. It's dumb smart. I love it. I love it. I love AI. It's a cool one. It's like because you can use basically high level programming, especially if you know the low level good enough. You can tell it what to do and how to do it, and it'll do it for you in a faster way, and then you just check it over. Most of the time, like the files that it gives you back, I would say like 80% of them are good, and then like you'll have to like really fix the other 20%, like I did previously in this stream. But yeah, so let's call it a day here. This is nice. I usually do this in the dark. I just code, and I decided why not stream it? And I don't know. I'm pretty private. I don't like, attention or anything like that. But it seems like the only way, not the only way, but the best way to, get your name out there, get your business out there is to, you know, kind of like do this, streaming or video content. So that's why I'm doing this. And because I'm basically coding anyway, might as well just, you know, get it recorded, get it out there. And if people like it, people like it. If people don't, then I don't know. I'll figure something out. I don't want this channel to be just about code or low-level stuff. I want to talk about, high-level stuff, business related, like software, AI stuff. Maybe have like guests over that I work with. do some pair programming. That would be pretty cool. But I gotta set up like all these stream overlays and stuff for that because mine are pretty shitty. But yeah, that's basically what I want to do. I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. Whoever is watching, I know I had one person show up, which is cool. Andre Mikkelsen, that's cool. Hope to see you again. And yeah, hopefully this will get better as time goes on. All right, we'll call it here. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.